to those that need to maximize their scores when it comes to section A, item 2 questions. Let's have a look at this, okay? Remember, I told you that when you are to answer these questions that are going to be set in item 2 section A, you have to first of all identify the variables, define them, then you formulate either equations or inequalities. So we're going to have a simple case study here, okay? We're having a simple case study. They are telling us that a site engineer estimates that with his 40 workers, the building will take 30 days to get complete, okay? However, the boss has told him that the building is needed in 25 days and he doesn't know how many more workers he needs to employ. Now, what's your task? They want you to help this site engineer to determine how many more workers you will need to employ to get this work done in the required period of of time. Now look here, we said you have to begin or start with defining or identifying the variables and then the values. Now for this case, we're going to let you see that our variables, those values that are going to keep on changing, we're having the number of workers and then the number of days that these workers are going to take to complete the work. So those are the ones that we're going to define, okay? So we can say, let, because we say that you begin by letting. So you can say, let, for example, y define the what? Represent the number of, let y represent the number of what? Of workers. Then, for example, x donate the number of days that these workers are going to take, okay? Now, after doing that, you have to look at the information given clearly. Look at the information given and say, from which chapter is this content? When you look at this content clearly, you will notice that it's from the chapter of ratio and the proportion. Now, after knowing that it is coming from the chapter of ratio and proportion, ask yourself still, which kind of proportion? Is it direct or indirect or inverse proportion? Now, look at the variables you're having. You're having number of days taken, and the number of workers. Now look at those values. When the other one increases, what happens to the other one? You will notice that when one increases, the other one will decrease, implying that the kind of proportion we're going to deal with is the inverse. Now, after realizing that, you will come to your formulation now. After defining the variables, you will say, since these two variables are in inverse proportion, then you can mathematically or algebraically express it as y is inversely proportional to x. Okay? Now, to remove this proportionality symbol, we're going to put equal signs and introduce a constant k on the other side. So it will be y equaling to k out of what? Out of x. Okay? But remember, you have to get this constant because for it will remain constant. But remember, in our scenario, they told us that this site engineer estimates that with 40 workers, the building will take 30 days. But remember, the number of workers, you've called it y. And then the number of days, you've called it x. So it means that when y is 40, x will be 30. So you will use that information to get the value of k. You will say that for y equaling to 40, x is equal to what? X is equal to 30. Then what will happen? You will say that 40, the value of y, will be equal to k out of 30. Now the value of what? The value of x, and any integer is a fraction. Then you can do what? Cross multiply. You will see that the value of k is equal to 1,200. That's the value of what? Of k. After getting the value of k, you will have to substitute it in this equation to come up with the equation connecting y and x. So you will see that the equation will be y is equal to k, which is 1,200 out of what? Out of x. This is the equation that is connecting x and what? And y, where y is the number of workers and then x is the number of days they take to complete the work. But what happened today? Site engineer, the boss told him that the worker is needed in 25 what? Days. It means that they have given you x. Now they want you to get y using the other equation that you've formulated. Okay? So you will say now that for x equaling to 25, the required number of days, now what will be what? What will be y? You ask yourself. It will be just a matter of what? Substituting. So you will say y will be equal to 1,200 out of 25. Okay? And the value of y will be equal to, when you compute here, you will say that the value of y will be what? 40 what? 48. But remember, y, they are the number of workers that will happen to complete the work. So it means that 48 workers will complete this job or work in how many days? 25. But remember, the question wanted, how many more workers does he need to employ to finish the work? Remember, he is already having the 40. But these 40 are not going to be enough according to the number of days that the boss wants the worker to be done in. Now, he has to add on more workers on the 40 workers. But you've seen that for this number of days, you must be with 48 what? Workers. So how many is he going to add on this 40? You have just to get the what? The difference. So since he's already having the 40, but he needs 48 to complete the work in the required time, it means that the more workers that he needs to employ will be 48 minus the 40 that he is already having. So you will have to get what? 8. And these are what? Workers. Now, after getting those workers, you have to conclude. That's where you will get the what? The application marker. You have to conclude that therefore the site engineer will need 80 more workers, or will employ 80 more workers for the worker to get done in the required number of days. Okay? So please, I remain Teacher Kaiba Bakari, a teacher of mathematics, and I urge whoever is in need of such a content to subscribe on my channel on the PrimeLearn app. Okay? Otherwise, we've broken this scenario question into 3 parts. And this is the first part. So it means that we're going to come back and look at the second and then the third part. Otherwise, bye-bye.